Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming here today. I know some of you have come from long distances, so thank you for being here. Please relax. It's going to be an informal event. So as they say, chill out. It's okay. What we want to do is present to you just a brief presentation in respect of the state of the economy. As you know, we've been around Fiji now in every single town and city, and we have met with members of the public. We've had public consultations. We've also met with high school students. Every single town and city, so people living in that area have all come together. So for example, in Suva, we had at Suva Grammar School with something like 25 to 25 schools. So they had about 10 students from each school. It was about 250 students. We had it in Nasori, Rakiraki, Tavua, Ba, Nandi, Latoka, Singatoka, Navua. And this afternoon we'll be going down to Lambasa College, where we're hoping to meet all the schools in the northern part of Vanuatu. The purpose of this is, of course, to get your views. Today in Fiji, 69.4% of the total population is below the age of 40. So I'm in the minority, you in the majority. So nearly 70% of the population is below the age of 40. So we believe as a government that we need to be able to hear from you as to what your views are. Some of you will be going to universities very soon. Some of you will be working very soon. Some of you will become mothers and fathers very soon. Hopefully not too soon. But the fact is, in about 10 years' time, we'll be in a different space. So the reality is that you'll be the ones who'll be driving the country. So we have to be able to listen to your views. We have to be able to inform you as to how the economy functions, so you have a better idea. So when somebody talks about certain things, you know exactly what is happening. As you know, there's a lot of people in Fiji who talk a lot without any facts. So at least we'll give you some facts, so you have an understanding of it. As one of the former presidents of India said, that the youth of any country should be the one that should be providing the power. You are the fire belly in our stomach. So we want to tap into that. That's why we're here. We're here to listen to you and get your views. You may have some concerns. You may have some good points that you may want to raise. And therefore, once we've done this, as we said, Vanuatu is the last place we're having consultations. Last night, for example, we met with the private sector in Lambasa. So we're here today, and we're here in Lambasa this afternoon, and we go back to Suva today. And I hope you can watch the Crusaders and the Chiefs game tonight. But I'm sure you can watch it on television and delayed coverage, about, I think, by half an hour. But again, the point is, why do we have the Crusaders and the Chiefs playing in Fiji? We actually pay them a sum of money to come and play in Fiji. Why are we doing that? What's the purpose behind that? Why do we, for example, sponsor the golf tournament that they come and play in Fiji? It's called Fiji International now. What's the reason behind that? So these are some of the things that I want to be able to explain to you so you have a better understanding of it. And once we have these consultations completed in the next few weeks, we will finalize the budget. The budget gets delivered on the evening of the 29th of June at 7:30 p.m. So those of you who catch television, you'll be able to see the budget being delivered on the 29th of June. Then by law, we have to wait 1 week. And then Parliament meets, and then we debate the budget. So they can ask us any line. Why are you giving $30,000 to Savusavu Town Council? What is it going to be used for? These are the kind of questions we get asked. And then the budget gets passed. Once the budget gets passed in July, then the budget becomes applicable from the 1st of August, because our financial year now is from the 1st of August to the 31st of July the following year. That's why it's called the 2017-2018 budget, because it falls in 2 years. 6 months a year, or a few months a year, and the rest of the time is in the other year. So what I'll do now is I'll just have a very brief presentation of the economy, and then we can have some discussion around that. Please feel free to ask any questions. Don't think any question is too silly or too difficult or too hard. You can always ask questions. We always talk about economic growth. As you can see, the Fijian economy has been growing consecutively since 2010. So every year since 2010, we've been growing. Now, normally after a cyclone, the economy slows down because a lot of things get damaged. So the person who may have a fishing boat, if his fishing boat gets damaged, obviously he can't go and catch fish. So it takes him some time to do that. If the electricity power lines fall down, the shopkeeper is not able to sell you ice cream because there's no electricity. So economy always slows things down. This is why, for example, you have Cyclone Mick here. The economy went into negative growth. It did not grow at all. It went below the growth rate. So the fact that the economy over here, you see, Winston caused us about $1.4 billion worth of damage. That's a lot of money, a lot of damage. So we are currently rebuilding something like 225 schools. It's costing us about $180 million just to rebuild the schools. A lot of damage. But despite the damage, you see the economy is growing here, 4.7, 5.6, 3.6. It went down, Winston took place here. But despite the damage, it still grew by 2%. And the reason why it happened, because the government had made the right policy decisions and the economy is strong enough. We expect the economy to grow again, 3.8, 3.0, 2.9. Now, why are we always concerned about the economy growing? When the economy grows, it creates jobs. When the economy grows, that means people have more money in their pocket. So it helps you, those of you going to go into the job market. You know that the future is brighter if the economy is going to grow. If the economy is going to be slower in growth, if it's going to go into negative growth, or it's only going to grow by 1%, then the chances, for example, for you to get jobs is limited. Chances for economic robustness, what they say, is limited. That's why we're concerned. This is only the second time in Fijian history after independence have we had about 7 years of growth, one after the other, every year, consecutive growth. Next, please. Now, what are the things that makes the economy grow? There are obviously certain things. At the moment, agriculture contributes 0.34%. But you can see fisheries and forestry is very low, only 0.01. So obviously, we need to improve over here. Obviously, there's a lot of potential for this area to grow. We believe that agriculture should even contribute even more. There's vast tracts of land available in Fiji. People need to get more into agriculture. One of the problems has been that previously when agricultural leases were given out, it was only given for 30 years. Now, because we've changed the laws, you can get agricultural leases for Itauke land, for Crown land or government land for up to 99 years now. So when you have a longer period of lease, you take your land to the bank, they're able to lend you money on it. When you have a shorter term lease, they can't lend you any money. They won't lend you any money. So this is why there's not much investment in agriculture. Manufacturing is, as you can see, has contributed quite a lot. We manufacture quite a few things in Fiji now. We make sewage pipe, water pipes, we make biscuit, we make soap, we make clothes, all sorts of things we make in Fiji. Potential to grow more. Over here is also included the making of sugar. Construction. Construction is good. This is contributed about 0.44. We like construction. See, if you have to build up this building, you need somebody to come and dig the foundation. You need somebody to tie the steel. You need somebody to pour the concrete. You need somebody to do the electrical works. You need somebody to do the painting. If you're going to have some taps, somebody to do the plumbing, which means a lot of people get employed. When a lot of people get employed, it has what you call a multiplier effect. People have more money in their pocket. They have more money in their pocket, they go downtown, they buy things. When they buy things, if a shopkeeper has many people coming to the shop, they say, oh, I'm getting too many people, maybe I need to hire one shop assistant. So it creates jobs. Construction is good from that perspective. It also helps develop skill sets. Electricity and water contributed 0.1%. Mining is very low, 0.02. This area grows a lot, is growing a lot, sorry. Financial services, this is banks, insurance companies, all that sector. Transport, wholesale, retail, accommodation, this is to do with hotels, etc. We think that Fiji has a lot of potential to grow in the services sector. Today, we have something like 500,000 smartphones. You know, phones, you can get your internet, your Facebook, your Viber. There's 500,000 smartphones in Fiji. A few years ago, we decided to zero-rate duty on any phones that come to Fiji to make it more accessible. I know in this part of Fiji, we need more internet connectivity, we need mobile phone connection. And that's one of the things we're working with the mobile phone companies to get better connection in this part. Some of you may have heard, we are landing a submarine cable here in Savusavu. The reason why we are doing that is because it's costing us about 6 to 7 million US dollars, because you can then get faster internet connectivity in Vanuatu. The moment we land the submarine cable, you get better connection. Your phones work faster, your internet works faster. So we can say to people that, look, if you come and invest in Savusavu, you get very good phone connectivity. Maybe you can set up call centers. I don't know how many of you know what call centers are. Call centers are things like a lot of companies from overseas, it's cheaper for them or more cost effective for them to go and set up a call center in other countries. They do that a lot in places like Philippines and India. So you have an Australian, say, insurance company, and I'm an Australian, and I want to phone up the insurance company and say, I want to know what's the insurance premium, or I have an insurance policy, I've got this problem, so somebody can help you on the other side of the phone. Those phone calls when you make, it does not get answered by an Australian. It gets answered by an Indian or a Filipino, because it's cheaper for them to set up there. So the phone lines go there. So the person picking up the phone, the Australian in Sydney, he does not know that he's not speaking to an Australian. He or she thinks they're speaking to an Australian. But in fact, that phone call is actually being handled by somebody in India. We have now some companies like that in Suva, where Australian and New Zealand companies have set up call centers. So somebody may want to have an insurance query, and they ring up, you've got some Fijian answering the phone, talking to them, helping them. So we believe there's a lot of potential for that. There's also a lot of what they call data processing, back-end processing that can be done in Fiji. So these are the areas that contribute to the economy. For a government, our objective is that we should expand the different sectors that contribute to the economy. So, for example, if we didn't have any of this, and say we had a lot of agriculture, and we say we had a lot of just manufacturing, assuming they were the only two things, and we had a very bad cyclone. The cyclone came and damaged all the agricultural crops and damaged all the factories. Where would we get our money from? You see, the only two things you're dependent on. So for a government, we want to be able to be dependent on a number of businesses, number of sectors. It's what you call having a broad-based growth. So the example that I give, assuming all of these people, all of these lovely ladies here, there's 6 of them, they all belong to one family. But if only she works and the others stay home and they live off her, if she gets sick, she doesn't go to work, they'll all suffer. But if all of them worked, and even if 2 of them got sick, they can still live because the other 4 are earning a living. In the same way we look at the economy. So a smart government tries to have this as broad-based as possible. Just in case something, say, goes wrong in 3 or 4 of them, we can depend on the rest of the economy to keep us afloat. So what are the things? By the way, these figures are put together by the Reserve Bank of Fiji. They are the ones who independent body that does the assessment. So as in 2016, the value of building permits went up by 12.7%. Value of work put in place went up. These are the people applying to make buildings. When people apply to make buildings, it shows that people are investing. So money is going to come in the economy. Domestic cement sales went up. You don't go and buy cement to keep it underneath your house. You buy cement to build things. So that goes to show the economy was moving a lot. Imports of investment goods. This is like machineries and other type of equipment. When people buy from overseas, obviously they're expanding their factories or maybe building a service station. So again, it shows the economy is moving. And government capex. Capex stands for capital expenditure. So government capital expenditure has also gone up. You see more roads, bridges, all of those things being built. Electricity, water. Between January and March this year, new investment lending went up by 65.7%, sorry. That's very, very high. In other words, more people have gone and borrowed money from the banks to invest. So when they're borrowing more money from the banks to invest, that means they're building things. Lending for real estate went up by 104%. Lending for building construction went up by 37.1%. And the construction sector actually grew by 14.6%. Very strong indicators of growth. In other words, people are investing. Second-hand vehicle registration went up by 27.5%. These are second-hand cars you bring from overseas, and more of them have been registered. Sorry, the other way. New vehicle registration went up by 27.5%. These are brand new cars being registered. Second-hand vehicle registration went up by 7.8%. You see, there are more cars in Fiji now. Yeah, I'll show you some figures later on. If you go to places like Suva now, in Nasinu, if you travel from Nasinu to Suva, it can take you over 1 hour, hour and a half, because there's so many cars in the road. Traffic jam like overseas. So this also shows that, more people are spending money. In Fiji also, when somebody does well, we would like to say to them, oh, my son is doing well, see, he's bought his first car. Or my daughter is doing well, they bought their first car. It's a sign of social mobility. Imports of consumption goods has gone up. Consumption goods are things like, you see, this lady, she's wearing a badge. She's a prefect. Now, it's engraved in Fiji, but the material that it is engraved on is imported. The dress she's wearing, maybe it's sewn in Fiji, but the fabric comes from overseas. This hair dye, the hair tie, maybe she used hair gel. All of these things are imported from overseas. I'm wearing this watch. All of this is imported from overseas. This ring is made in overseas. This bag this lady has is made in overseas. You see, these lights come from overseas. So nearly everything we have, almost everything we have, comes from overseas. So when you see the imports of consumption goods goes up, that means you know that people are spending more money. There's a lot of confidence. PAYE, this is the tax you pay when you're getting a salary. But if you earn more than $16,000, only then you pay taxes. Before in Fiji, if you earn more than $8,600, you pay taxes. But we increased the income tax threshold. So now you don't pay any tax until you earn $16,000. So when that goes up, that means either more people are working or people's salaries have gone up. So that's gone up by 4.9%. New job advertisements went up by 15.1%. Personal remittances. This is personal remittances. These are people sending money from overseas. You may have your friends and family relatives living overseas. They may be sending money. We have rugby players playing in France, Japan. We have British Army soldiers. We have security personnel in the Middle East. We have women working as nurses in the Middle East, working as caregivers in North America. These people send money back home. Sometimes they send money for their loved ones. Sometimes they send money because they're building a house. So this is our second largest foreign exchange earner after tourism. This is the one area that brings us this foreign exchange. New consumption lending went up by 7.9%. Next, please. This is what I was saying, vehicle registration. Just by comparison, in 2005, there were 6,088 second-hand vehicles registered. These are vehicles you bring in from overseas. 6,000. By comparison, 2016, 10,152 new second-hand vehicles were registered. 2005, 3,363 new vehicles got registered. 2016, nearly 5,000 got registered. So you can see a lot of cars are being imported. Over here, it started going up. You can see how it changes. One of the reasons why it did, because we reduced the duty on hybrid cars, makes it more easily, a lot more affordable for people. Next, please. This measures essentially sales at the shops, retail sales. So you can see since 2008, it's been increasing every year. On average, if you take from that period, 2006 to 2016, it's grown at 7.1%. Normally when people have less money or people don't feel confident, they don't spend as much. And of course you can see it's been growing every year. So you can see over here, before Winston, it went up by 17.2%. Inflation, this is the cost of things. Now you can see since 2014, we were doing pretty well. It was just around 2%. This is the 2% mark. Just slightly went over 2%, but it went up, shot up after Winston. In Suva, after Cyclone Winston, just a small bunch of bananas used to cost $20. Long beans, the long beans you buy, used to cost $5, $7. Because there's a shortage of supply and higher demand. Yangona till today costs about $110 a kilo. In some places $115 a kilo. Whereas before the cyclone it was like about $40, $50. So that obviously puts up the price of your inflationary rate. Of course some people, even though it's $120, they still drink it at the same rate, which is a bit of a worry. But you can see after Winston went up, it peaked up again. Now it's coming back down. You can see the inflation is coming down because there's more agricultural produce is coming into the market, so obviously we expect the price to go down. I think Yangona will stay fairly high for a period of time because Yangona takes longer to grow, about 7 years to grow, good Yangona crop. Whereas beans and bananas and things like that take a shorter period to bear fruit. Now this is very important, the foreign reserves. You know, I was saying, giving the example, when we buy all these things from overseas, even this mic that I'm holding is not made in Fiji. So if this mic comes from Japan, for example, when we buy these things, you have to buy it in the currency that they trade in. So you buy it in Japanese yen. Maybe this is made in Australia, and maybe you have to buy this in Australian dollars. We buy maybe in US dollars or New Zealand dollars, whatever the case may be. We buy about $1 billion worth of fuel from overseas. And this fuel that we use for cars, for your ships, for your outboard motor engines. $1 billion worth of fuel every year. We buy it from Singapore. Singapore is a refinery, all the oil companies buy it from them. So you need to trade in Singapore dollars or whatever it is. So, you see, this is the number of months. Now, international benchmark says that we should have at least 4 months worth of foreign reserves to trade. You must have at least 4 months worth. This is the number of months. So this is the benchmark. You see this dotted line here? That's the benchmark that you should have. And then people say, okay, this country has good amount of money, we can trade with them. This is one of the things sometimes you see, you read about countries and they say, oh, that country's got bankrupt. And the reason why they say that is sometimes they say that because they believe that this country does not have enough foreign currency to be able to trade with you properly. In 2005, there was only $549 million worth of foreign reserves in Fiji, which gave you about 2.3 months worth of trading. Today we have $2.16 billion in Fiji in our foreign reserves. You can see the huge difference. We have 5.8 months worth of foreign reserves that's sitting here. So we're in a very comfortable position. So these things also determine your interest rates. So when a company like Fiji Airways, they bought brand new A330s, each airplane costs you about $300-400 million. Then when they go out and, for example, borrow money from European banks, the European banks will look at this. They say, oh, this country is doing well. They can do our repayments. They've got enough foreign reserves. So they give you an attractive interest rate. If you have very little foreign reserves, they'll think, oh, it's high-risk country. So your interest rate goes up. When you have a higher foreign reserves, you become a low-risk country. So that's what has a positive influence on us, and this is a very comfortable situation to be in. Of course, we always want this line to go even higher, and that's always our objective. So the more we export, the more money we get also, foreign reserves we get. Now, all governments, since the Ratumara government days after independence, all governments in Fiji have run a fiscal deficit. What does fiscal deficit mean? It means every year in the budget, we spend more than what we have. We spend more than what we have because we are a developing country. We are a former colonial country. When the colonial powers were in Fiji, they did not put road, water, electricity and bridges everywhere. They only did it around the town areas. Essentially, a lot of it was to look after themselves and also essentially to bring about connectivity wherever they thought for them it was important. We, of course, now have to build. We're a developing country, we have to build. To make you better highways, to tahsil your roads, the road that now goes up to the Buddha Bay area, that costs money. We need money to build that. We're giving you all now free education. None of you actually have to pay school fees anymore. We now give you scholarships to go to university. If you don't get a scholarship, you get a place in a university, but you can't afford to pay for your school, university fees, we pay for you. And you pay us back or pay the system back once you start working, and small repayments. And low-income families, you don't pay any interest. All of these things cost money. So we run a fiscal deficit. The point here is that the fiscal deficit, so the longer the line, the worse off it is, right? So the closer you are to zero, that's what you call a balanced budget. In other words, the amount of money you spend, the amount of money you collect is the same. When you go above the line, you have what you call a surplus budget. In other words, you have saved some at the end of the year. Now, the reason why you have a surplus there is probably we did not spend what we had said we were going to spend. Sometimes you have what you call underspending. So for us, the trick was to try and reduce this line as much as possible. And as you saw, doing that. We had a cyclonic event. And of course, Cyclone Winston came here. We were going down again. If Cyclone Winston had not occurred, this blue line would have been somewhere over there. Cyclone Winston itself cost us in this year's budget about $220 million more, because we have to do the rebuild. There are a lot of schools which are very badly damaged. They don't have roofs. Some actually are living in makeshift arrangements. We've spent $125 million helping people rebuild their homes. All of this costs money. Roads, bridges. There's something like 6,000 kilometers of electrical lines went down. We have to put them back up. Water pipes got washed away. All of these things cost money. So we have to spend a bit more this year. But if Winston had not occurred, the line would have been shorter. This is why we don't like cyclones. We don't like cyclones. It kills people, causes emotional distress, damages your homes, reduces the productivity of the country, and of course, it means you have to spend a lot more money in the budget. Now, we also make money. We also collect money. Government also makes money. So when you go, for example, and you are driving your car, and you pay your fine to LTA, that money goes to LTA, then LTA gives us that money. People coming to Fiji, tourists coming to Fiji, they pay departure tax of $200. Anybody that leaves the country, they pay departure tax. That's government revenue. When you apply for various licenses, that's government revenue. When you buy things and you pay VAT, that's government revenue. When you go and stay at a hotel, you pay a service turnover tax. You pay environmental levy, that's government tax. When somebody imports these goods from overseas, they have to pay duty sometimes at the border. That is government revenue. So that's how we generate revenue. If you look at revenue, 2004, the then government collected $1.1 billion. Today, we collect $3.1 billion. It also means we're trying to stop people from chortering from the system, as they say. We don't want them to steal. A lot of people still stealing from the system. A lot of businesses, when they bring in goods from overseas, they'll say to you, oh, we're bringing $2 million worth of things, when in fact it's $10 million. So they, what they call under-declare. So when they under-declare, they pay less duty, but they still sell it to you for the same price. So that's what we do. We've made the laws a lot more stringent. We're going after people who are trying to steal from the system, and that's how we've also increased our revenue. So it's good to increase your revenue as long as you get it from the right people, because that means you have to borrow less. When you borrow less, of course, there's less of a burden. What are the things that contribute to revenue? We collect money from direct taxes. These are companies, they have to pay taxes. People who work, they earn more than $16,000, we get taxes from them. Value-added tax contributes 30% towards our revenue. Customs, this is the people who pay duty at the border, that's what we call it, customs. Service turnover tax, as I mentioned, departure tax, stamp duty, various other fees and charges, water resource tax. All of these things contribute to government collecting revenue. Now what we've done here for you, we've put together the areas in infrastructure development, health, education, access to justice, social protection, and how much money is being spent in those areas. So if we've put all of these things together, infrastructure, health, education, justice, and social access to justice and social protection, you will find that in 2004, government spent $1.3 billion. Today, we're spending $3.6 billion. That's nearly triple the amount of money that we are spending in the area, in these areas. What is social protection? Social protection is social welfare. We give about $30 million to single mothers, abandoned children, people living below poverty line. We started a program a few years ago where anybody over the age of 70 who did not have FNPF, we started giving them a pension, about $30 a month. There are a lot of villagers, a lot of farmers, a lot of people who've never worked for anybody. They've just been living and working for themselves. So when they get old, they don't have any pension. And you'd be surprised how many children now no longer look after their parents or their grandparents. They get abandoned. Some of them leave and go away to Suva or Lotoka, and they leave them alone in the rural areas. So they don't get money. So we started giving them $30 a month. Today it's $50 a month. And it's also anybody over the age of 66, we give it to them. We also, for example, give food vouchers to rural pregnant women. Women who are pregnant in the rural areas, if they're below a particular income level, we give them a food voucher because we want them to eat properly so the babies, when they are born, they're healthy. If the babies are not healthy, then of course it causes a lot of emotional distress to the baby and also to the mother, but also it puts a lot of pressure on the health system. You have to spend more money to make sure that they actually are nurtured well, that they're healthy. Access to justice. This is legal aid. Today you have legal aid office in Savusavu. If one of you commits a crime, you come from a low-income family, they will help represent you. If, for example, there are a lot of women who, for example, fall pregnant or their husbands abandon them and they want to claim for child maintenance, they go to legal aid. If you want to write your will, or if your parents want to write a will, they'll help you write a will. If your father or your mother dies without writing a will, and you, 3 or 4 of you, brothers and sisters, you're fighting over who should get the property, they'll help you resolve it. So these are the things that legal aid does. When we started off legal aid, when we were appointed in government, there's only 3 legal aid offices throughout Fiji. Today there's about 14 legal aid offices. We're setting up legal aid offices. Tavyuni even has one now. We've got legal aid offices being set up in the outer islands too, because we believe that everybody, even though you may be poor, you need access to justice. It's very, very important to the court system. Education, of course, we pay all your school fees. Like I said, if you go to university, we pay your fees. If you cannot afford it, we pay $21 million a year to bus companies to take you as school children to your destinations, to your schools. We also pay, of course, for outboard motor engines to take people to schools too. Health. Health, we have increased the funding, but the major issue with health is we don't have enough doctors. We don't have enough specialists. You see, today, if any one of us has a heart attack, there is no Fijian doctor that can cut you open and do an open heart surgery. Just because you've done a medical degree doesn't mean you can cut my heart open and play with it. It takes 10, 15 years for a person to become a specialist. So what it means is that governments have to invest in the human resources. And unfortunately, the reason why we don't have specialists in Fiji today, because previous governments did not invest in our doctors. Today, if you become a doctor in Fiji and you join government health services, if you want to do any postgraduate studies, we pay for you, it's free. You want to go to FNU, at night time do some specialist courses, we pay for you, it's free. So the human resource challenge is significant in the health division, in the health sector. So as we speak, the Minister for Health and a couple of permanent secretaries are currently in India to recruit some specialists. You should not have to go to Suva for ear, nose and throat specialists or specialist gynecologists. We don't even have speech therapists in Fiji. So we need to build up that capacity whilst we are training our local people. Infrastructure development, of course, is roads, bridges, jetties, electricity, water. A lot of you, I don't know how many of you have access to electricity. A lot of you would not have had electricity about 10 years ago. Some of you now have access to electricity. This is very, very important. You need to have electricity to study at night. You need to have electricity to have a fridge. Just think about it. If I'm a fisherman, and if I catch fish, and I sell fish by the roadside, now if I don't have a fridge at my home because I don't have electricity, if I don't sell the fish by the afternoon, I have a problem, because the fish will go bad. So I either sell it at half the price, less than my cost, or I eat it myself, or let the fish rot away. But if I have a fridge, if I can keep it in a cooler, if I don't sell it, I can go and put it back in the cooler, put it by the roadside again, spray it with some water and say fresh fish. And you'll come along and you'll bite. You see, because by doing that, by getting them access to electricity, we have now improved the level of income they can make. Because they don't actually have to eat the fish or throw away with the fish. They can sell it the next day. So we've improved their source of income. So these are the things that's very, very important. Now, you see, this is what we call expenditure mix. There are two types of expenditures any government has. Even in your house, you have two types of expenditure. One expenditure is, even for the school, is the day-to-day running of the school. Right? You pay for electricity, you pay for the wages of the teachers, you pay for the toilet paper, you pay for the photocopying paper, you pay for the toner. All of that's what you call operating expenditure. You see, we have come here. We came last night. We all came. Some people came by boat, some people came by plane. So that has to be paid for by government. So government pays for our hotel accommodation. We stayed at the North Pole. They pay for the hotel bill. If we have lunch, if we get money for that, that's called operating expenditure. That's the day-to-day running of it. But there's another kind of expenditure. The other kind of expenditure, like for the school, putting up this building is not an operating expenditure. It's what you call a capital expenditure, which is you're building an asset. When you buy the toilet paper, it's not building an asset. It's just operating expenditure, right? Because once you use it, it's gone. Once you put up this building, it's not gone, it's still there. That's what you call a capital expenditure. So the example that I used with the other students, I know you don't have a McDonald's here, but I said, if the example is this, if all of us decide now, what's the most fancy place to eat in Savusavu? Right? What's the most fancy place to eat? Sorry? Copra Shed. Okay. If we all decide now, let's go and have one big party at Copra Shed. Right? But we don't have the money. So we go down to the bank and we say to the, what bank you are, ANZ, Westpac, whichever bank, we say to the bank manager, we really want to have a party but we don't have any money, can you lend us some money? He says, no worries. He gives us the money, we go to the Copra Shed, we order lots of drinks and Coke and whatever and burgers, I hope that's all you drink, all of those drinks, and we have the food, we have the party, we have the music, we've eaten the food, we had the drinks, we go to bed, we wake up in the morning, your food and drinks are gone, but what's left? Your debt. Your debt is left. But you got nothing to show for it. So somebody comes along, hey, how did you get this debt? Oh, we had a party. You see, but if we all went out and said to the bank, we want to borrow money because we want to put up a nice building, next morning you wake up, or when the building is built, the building is there, the debt is there. After a while the debt will finish, but the building will still be there. So you should only borrow money to build. And a good government will spend or try and spend a bulk of its money for capital expenditure. We try and reduce our operating costs. You have to be a bit mamangi, a bit kanjus, stingy. So you control your operating expenditure, but you spend more money for capital. In 2004, see, stop working. 2004, you can see the then government Out of all the money, 83% of the money they spent was in operating expenditure, day-to-day running of the government. Only 17% went into capital expenditure, using that part of the money to build things. Today, 60% as opposed to 83% goes into operating, and 40% goes into capital. So we are spending a lot more money in capital expenditure compared to what was being done before. So that money will last for the future. And that's very important to understand. This again, if you see the PWD days, they used to get 55 million. Today we have $527 million that has been spent, or that is being spent in building roads, bridges and jetties. I have to tell you that many of the roads, bridges and jetties that were built only a few years ago, we have to redo them because they weren't built up to standard. If you go, I mean, you don't have CSR in Savusavu, but bridges that were built by the CSR in 80, 90 years ago, they're still standing. Bridges that were built in the 1970s in Fiji, 1980s are now falling down. Why? Because they did not follow the right standards. Why? Because there's a lot of corruption. So they say we're given five loads of cement, but in fact there's only 3. But somebody got paid off for the other 2. So these are the problems that we are now facing in respect to the infrastructure. One of the other things we are doing just on that, just to highlight that, some of the new areas that we are building, the roads, etc., we are doing some what we call resilient building in our infrastructure. I don't know, has anybody been to Nandi recently? Anybody? You should go to Nandi. We built a 4-lane road coming out of Nandi Airport, going all the way through Matintar, Namaka, and you'll see that there's no electricity cables. There's no TFL cables, telecom cables. Why? Because they're all underground. And the water pipes, they're all underground also, of course, as they generally are. But the tradition of building roads in Fiji is, for example, if this is the road, they put the water pipe underneath the road. So when the water pipe starts leaking, we don't know that the water pipe is leaking, but the road starts breaking. So people say, oh, a lot of potholes. Then eventually somebody will discover there's a water pipe leak. Then you dig up the road to fix up the pipe. You fix up the pipe, but you don't fix up the road. So this is what you'd call not smart building. So the areas that we are now fixing up, those major roads, we actually in the 4-laning of the road in Nandi, we've taken out all the water pipes and put it on the side of the road. We've taken the electrical cables and the telecom cables, put it on the side of the road. 2 reasons. Next time there's a cyclone, there's nothing to blow down because everything is underneath. So they still have electricity. No power lines to blow down, no TFL lines to go down. But also if there's a water leak next time, they don't dig up the road to fix up the pipe. This makes logical sense, but it costs a lot of money. See, when we had a choice. When we were doing the 4-laning of the road, they said, oh, if you're going to put the electrical cables on the side, or underground, sorry, it'll cost you about $20 million more. So we said, yes, okay, we'll do it. Because if they have a cyclone every year, it can all come down, we put it back up, come down, we put it back up again. So it's what you call building resilience. You hear a lot of these kind of terms when they talk about climate change, building resilience in your infrastructure. Water and energy, same thing. As you can see, we're giving a lot of money for water and electricity. The cost of electricity is about 34 cents a unit. Any household that earns less than $30,000 a year, we pay for half the electricity cost if the usage is below 95 kilowatts. So these are the ways that we're helping families. So if I have a swimming pool and 5 air conditioners, or somebody's got a bigger premises, they should pay the full rate. But we specifically target and help people below a particular income level. That's where a lot of the money goes to. Next, please. Education, as you can see, the cost of education, it used to be about 351, 520, 533, $598 million. That includes TELS, toppers, and free education. This line, I can tell you now, will go up even more. Because a lot more students are now going to university. So the people who are there their first year, last year, they're now in the second year. So a lot more people come in the first year, so we'll go a full cycle. So we expect at least for the next 2 or 3 years, I think this thing is dying on me. I think for the next 2 or 3 years, this line will even keep on going higher. Sorry, this thing is not working. That will keep on going higher. We're spending a lot of money. Why are we spending a lot of money in education? Because we want to invest in you. If we invest in you, then you are better qualified. It does not mean everybody wants to go to university. There's a lot of technical colleges too we are setting up. You can go and do a 1-year course, 6-month course. Some people say, look, I want to do carpentry. They'll become very good carpenters. At the moment, electricians in Fiji get paid up to about $12 an hour. There's a shortage of electricians. We have construction companies in Fiji at the moment bringing tradesmen from Bangladesh, from Indonesia, from Philippines, because we don't have enough tradespeople, professional tradespeople. Why? Because we have not invested in that. So we are doing that. This is why we're setting up technical colleges. You know, to lay tiles on the floor, it's not an easy job. You want to go and lay tiles at a hotel or in an airport, you have to be very professional about it. We don't have enough professional people. If you look at some of the finishings in some of these buildings, if you go to some homes, you know, there's a little gap in the plaster, there's holes there. We need more professionally done buildings. That's what attracts people to your properties. When you build a hotel, you can't sort of just anyhow build it. It has to be done professionally. So when people get professionally trained, they also get a higher rate of wages. And as you know, the economy is growing. The economy can stop growing if we don't have the right people doing the right things. So this is why we're training you. We're investing in the future. We know you're not going to give us the money back soon. We know it will be over a long period of time, but it is good for you and it is good for the economy. That's very important. Health, as I said, as you can see, health has got an increase compared to, say, 2013 of about another almost $100 million more. But the main issue with health is the right number of personnel. We don't even have enough radiologists, you know, people who take X-ray machines. Use X-ray machines for the X-ray photos. We bought our first MRI machine in Fiji about 5 or 6 years ago. But guess what? Not everybody can read an MRI image. Not even normal doctors can read it. You need specialized doctors who can read the imaging. So what's the point of buying the machine when you don't know people who know how to read it? You don't have enough people who know how to read it. So you see, this is a major issue for us. As I mentioned about speech therapists, you know, some people, for example, when they are born, they may not be able to speak properly. If you have the right training for them, they can speak properly. But in Fiji, oh, this guy can't speak properly, and you condemn them to be like that for the rest of their lives. You know? So you see, if we had the right skill sets, then we'll be able to improve the quality of individual lives and also the lives of the community. You know, one of the major issues I have had in all the school consultations, a lot of them have said to us, you know, we don't have enough student counselors in schools. They said, you know, our teachers don't know how to do counseling, and they become counselors, they're not trained in that area. I agree with them. We don't have enough counselors. And then I asked them the question. I said, okay, how many of you, when you finish school, see counseling as a career? How many of you want to become counselors? Not a single person put up their hands. You see, the point is because our whole mindset. Many parents won't say to you, son, I want you to go and become a counselor. They'll never say that. They don't see that as a professional career. How many parents will say, son or daughter, I want you to go and become a forester? You say, why is this fellow going to go and walk in the bush? You see, because these are the areas that we don't give enough emphasis to. We need to train and get ourselves trained and change our mindset. We need more marine scientists. We need more foresters. We need more town planners, more land surveyors, more science lab technicians. These are the areas that we lack people in. This is why the topper scholarship, we give more scholarships for people who do science-based subjects. If you do science-based subjects, you have a higher or greater chance of getting a topper scholarship. You know, a lot of people think, oh, become an accountant or a lawyer. Lots of them. But we need more people in those areas that I've just said and lots of other areas. This is what I was talking about earlier on. You see, this is how much money we make operating revenue. You know the revenue I was talking about? So all the way from there to there, that's our total revenue. Of that, we spend in operating expenditure. You know those expenditures I was talking about, our day-to-day running of government. So we make more revenue, operating revenue, than operating expenditure. Therefore, we have operating savings. So you can see our savings is increasing quite significantly. Compare that to, say, 2004, now our savings is quite substantial, about $730 million a year. So these are the areas, you know, what we're trying to do is sharpen the pencil, as they say. Now, government debt. A lot of people talk about government debt without understanding government debt. And I know a lot of politicians are going around and mentioning things, they have no understanding of it. The main point for government debt is this line is very important. That's what you call your debt to GDP ratio. Let me give you an example. You know, GDP means your gross domestic product. In other words, the value of your goods and services, essentially, that you produce. Now you're assuming that as a country, our GDP is $100, right? We make $100. And then we decide to go and borrow $20. If we borrow $20, what's 20 over 100? What percentage is it? Sorry? 20%. It's 20%. So then you say our debt to GDP ratio is 20%. In other words, the amount of money you borrowed, the amount of money you have is 20%. Now, assuming our GDP goes up from $100 to $500, right? It goes up to $500, making more, production is increased. But instead of borrowing $20, we go and borrowed $50, almost 2.5 times more than what we borrowed previously. What's our debt to GDP ratio? Was 50 or 500? 10%. So even though you borrowed more, in what we call nominal terms, the value from 20 to 100, that's what it is here. That's what you call, this is the $20 and the $50. That's what you call the nominal figure, the actual figure. But because your wealth has increased, your GDP has increased, it becomes lower your debt to GDP ratio. And that's this line here. You see, even though in nominal terms we have borrowed more, this line is coming down. Why? Because our GDP has gone higher. I hope you understand. Please, if you don't, ask me. This is very important to understand. So even though the actual amount of money being borrowed has gone up, as a percentage of your GDP, it's coming down. So the example of, you have $100, you borrow $20, it's 20%. But you have $500 and you borrow 50, even though 50 is more than 20, as a percentage, your debt has come down. Over here it is coming down. We have a target to continue to reduce this line, but you can see it's gone up slightly here. Here. Why? Because of Cyclone Winston. We borrowed, like I mentioned, about $220 million more to be able to do the rebuild. If Winston had not occurred, this line would have gone down further here. That's why we don't like cyclones. It also costs money. So just go back. So your debt to GDP ratio is coming down. So we're in a comfortable position as far as your debt levels are concerned. Now, in comparison to other countries, let's look at other countries. What's their debt to GDP ratio? Japan is 239.2%. In other words, they're borrowing 239.2% more than their GDP. Look at USA, 107.4%. These are two large economies. But nonetheless, the fact is they're borrowing more than what they actually have. But they still get a AAA rating. Let's compare ourselves to other countries that are similar to us. Maldives, 81.5%. Seychelles, these two islands, they're island countries. They're very similar to us, low-lying countries. They're in the Indian Ocean. This country is closer to Africa. Maldives is probably closer to India, Sri Lanka. Nauru, debt to GDP ratio is 65%. Mauritius, a very interesting country, 62.7%. I was fortunate enough to go there beginning of this year. Very similar to Fiji. The economic base is from sugar, or was from sugar. But they decided a few years ago, like we have done, they decided to invest a lot of money in infrastructure, just in the past few years. Because they recognize they're very close to Africa. So, as you know, a lot of countries don't view Africa positively. A lot of businesses. So Mauritius put in the infrastructure, put in the cables, set up ITC centers, made it very attractive to invest in Mauritius. Foreigners can't buy land in Mauritius, but you can only buy apartments. And when you buy an apartment, a third or almost half of the money goes to the government. So a lot of rich Africans, South Africans are coming and buying the apartments. They like Mauritius because it's safe, good infrastructure, everything works, roads are good. And also they've set up a lot of ITC centers. So a lot of people who service Africa from Mauritius. In the same way, they've set up a lot of private-public partnerships in hospitals. So a lot of Africans who don't have medical facilities, they come to Mauritius to get their surgeries done. So you'll find a lot of Indian hospitals. They've gone into partnership with Mauritian companies and they've set it up and they actually carry out these procedures. So they decided to borrow a lot of money, 62.7% debt to GDP ratio, but they have spent money in the right places. So that debt will come down very quickly because they're making a lot of money now as a result of investing. So you can see the other countries, Tuvalu, Samoa, we sit at 46.2%. Now these are the countries that are lower than Fiji, the debt to GDP ratio. But it's very interesting. You see, Australia, in the past couple of decades, have been making lots of money from minerals, very rich in minerals. But despite that, only a few years ago they had a surplus budget. The debt to GDP ratio is very close to ours, 41.1%, which is interesting. Philippines, PNG is 33.5%, but they have huge problems with their foreign exchange, very little foreign exchange. And there's some challenges there. And these are, of course, the other countries. We wanted you to get a perspective as to where we sit. So you don't just get, one view of it. So this is just a summary. The economy, as you can see, is growing at a rate of 3.8%, which is good news. The favorable growth prospects for medium term. In other words, it will continue to grow, at least in the next 3 to 5 years. Increased public sector growth. A lot of businesses are investing. I just met an investor from Savusavu who is planning to build another hotel in Savusavu. They feel very confident about the economy, so they want to invest. Prudent fiscal management. In other words, we are managing the money well. We're reducing our costs. We're spending more money for capital expenditure and a sustainable debt position. Spending more money in capital expenditure. Broad-based growth. As I said, you know how we need to have a number of things that contribute to the economy. We need to continue to grow that. And the foreign reserves at an all-time high. And inflation is set to stabilize below 3% in particular after Cyclone Winston. So ladies and gentlemen, that's the short presentation. Hopefully it's made you think about things, makes you want to ask questions. Please don't feel restricted. I want to give students a chance to ask questions because this is a time for students. Some schools I went to or universities we went to, the lecturers want to ask questions. I said no, because I want the students to feel free because this is your day to be able to ask questions. If you have any suggestions, maybe after this, you may decide as a school or as individuals, you may have some ideas, you want to make some suggestions. Please email them to us at that email address. Don't try and post it because you won't reach us in time, because we would like at least your submissions by Monday of next week. We've said to everybody Friday, but we'll make an exception for you. If you can send us your submissions by Monday of next week, you may have some ideas. Please don't hesitate to send that to us. We have, in the past 4 days, the Permanent Secretary and I have been sitting across the table with the other ministers and their Permanent Secretaries. We've been going through the individual ministries and their budgets. Sometimes they want more. Generally, they want more, and we go with a sharp pencil and say, no, we can't give you much more because we have to control the costs. Or sometimes we give them more in certain areas where we think they need to spend more money. So we're doing that, and as we finalize the figures in the next few weeks, and as I said, the budget will be delivered on the 29th of June. Like I said earlier on, the budget, when it's announced, does not come into effect until the 1st of August, except for one thing. So the budget announcement is made at 7:30 p.m. Will be done on the 29th of June, which is a Thursday, day before the public holiday on Sports and Wellness Day. If government decides to increase the tariff or decrease the tariff on anything, that becomes applicable after midnight of that night. So if we say that the duty on cigarettes will go up by 10%, I hope none of you hopefully smoke cigarettes, when somebody goes and buys cigarettes the next day or after midnight, it would have gone up by 10%. So tariff and duty or tariff comes into effect midnight after it is announced. So that's the process. We'll have somebody going around with a mic. Please just feel free to ask any questions. Thank you very much.
Minister for Economy, Sir, I am Varances Ngona, an E13 student of Patubonu Adventist College, and I stand before you to bring the plight of our students with regards to electricity. Our school is situated 70 kilometers away from Savusavu town. The source of energy that we use in our school is through the use of generator, which has a usage from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. and from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. During the day, the hours and time fluctuate. Sir, I would like to pose this question to our government as why it is not allocating the funds in the budget for the projects such as solar power system for remote schools for the benefit of students. Access to light will result in more hours of studies for students in boarding schools, improving results and providing a better educated workforce for Fiji. Thank you.
We actually have a huge spend on solar lighting and rural electrification projects. Maybe it hasn't reached your school as yet, but we'll most definitely take a note. We have also some people here who sit on the board of Fiji Electricity Authority here with us, and they'll also take a note of it. You said you're 70 kilometers away, is it? 70, okay. Which way is it? With the way, okay. Do you have any, how far is the electricity come to? Is it, how far away is it? The nearest, and how far away is that from your school? 30, 40 kilometers, okay. But we'll take note of that, okay? We'll let you know too. Thank you.
My name is Yumli Gopal of Savusavu Secondary School, and I am in Form 6. My first question is, sir, if you clearly look around, there is a lack of jobs and opportunities in our country. An allocation in your budget for opportunities in the music and art industry, which is not looked at as a job, should be given a chance by creating schools to teach for music and have openings for the talented people to sell their products. This way, jobs and opportunities are created not only for academic-based students, but also for the hidden talents available in our country. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with the second part of your statement that I think we need to really invest in, in the arts, and music. I think there's a lot of opportunities there. One of the major complaints that we do get from a lot of musicians in Fiji is piracy. It's a big problem. So assuming you are good in music, and you get together with your band and you produce good music, and you go and spend money and cut a CD, the moment you start selling it, you'll find a lot of people in Fiji, they'll immediately buy that original, and on a $2 CD, they'll start making copies of it and selling for 50 cents. It's a big issue, because what these people are doing is, in fact, they're undermining your intellectual property. Really, for you to make a living out of that, you need to be able to sell it at the right price, and you need to be able to get a royalty for that. That's how musicians make money. So every time you go to the iPhone and you download a song, when you pay for it, somebody, the musician, actually the composer is getting paid for it too. So that's a big issue. But I agree with you that we have enormous potential to increase the or harness the energy that a lot of people have in the music industry, and musicians and arts, visual arts also I think is underdeveloped, and I think that's probably something that the Ministry of Education can look at in providing courses for that. See, the thing is, it's one thing to say, let's have courses like in say music in high school. Do we have enough musical teachers to teach those courses? See, that's a problem, because we can make an announcement and say, yes, okay, now there'll be a subject in music available at high schools. And for people, say, from Form 6 and Form 7, or year 12, year 13. We can make that announcement, but the practical implementation will be very difficult if we don't have enough teachers. If we only give it to Savusavu Secondary School, then somebody down there, say, Lambasa is saying, hey, hang on, why are you only doing it for Savusavu? We want it too. So when we roll out these programs, we have to ensure that we have the ability to have those teachers go everywhere, and there's enough of those teachers. But I agree with you in principle that we should do that, and we should work towards that. How many people in Fiji actually want to become professional teachers in music? The point that you raised about the unemployment, I don't think that's necessarily correct. In fact, in some places we have what we call underemployment. There's not enough people to even, the example that I gave about we're bringing in people from Bangladesh and Philippines and Indonesia, because in certain sectors we may have not enough people to fill in the positions. In other sectors there may be more people than the actual positions. So overall, if you look at the unemployment rate, it is depending on which sector you're looking at. Of course, generally speaking, when people become graduates, it's a lot more, always difficult to break into the employment market. This is one of the reasons why government, for example, reduced the retirement age from 60 to 55 for civil servants. Why did we do that? It's because we want to give you people a bigger opportunity, a greater chance to get into the civil service. Because if we have people staying to 60, you people you'll be without jobs for a longer period of time. So that's one of the reasons. I just came back from Japan a few weeks ago. In Japan, like in Fiji at the moment, if you look at the age from 0, say to 90, the bulk of the Fijian population is at the bottom end. Like I said, about 70% is below the age of 40. In Japan, it's the other way around. The bulk of the population is on the top end. They have what they call the super aging people. The Japanese live a much longer life. They live till 80, 85, 90. You have ministers who are like 79 years old, but they're very healthy. But a lot of them also cannot work. If you go to most of these Japanese towns and cities, the people who are working even as security guards, they like grandfathers. So they spend 1/3 of their budget just looking after elderly people, or 1/3 of their budget, because they have the demographics is such. So I agree with what you're saying, and I think there's a couple of challenges we have in that respect. You want to say something?
Sir, but if you could just look again upon my proposal, because music, if people really put their hearts into music, people will become famous, and that'll put a place on the world map for us, and that'll put, more tourists will come in our country. Like if you go to America, most people don't even know where Fiji is. So if singers become famous, music become famous, and then we'll have a place in the world map. So I hope you can just answer my proposal.
I agree with you, but if you become the next Rihanna, you actually, if you become the next Rihanna, for Rihanna to get where she is today, all I'm just telling you is that we need to be able to protect the musicians, because you don't become Rihanna overnight. You actually have to work very hard for it. You need to have the money to be able to get to that level. So what I'm saying is that in Fiji at the moment, when people do compose music, there's a lot of piracy taking place. You need to have sponsors, you need to have record labeling companies. They'll be interested and they take you up. They'll of course take a huge percentage. But I agree with you. I mean, like, I don't think that, I think there are lots of people in America who do know about Fiji, but maybe not for music. Maybe not for music, but there's still a lot of people, the moment you say Fiji, everybody, the moment you say Fiji, the good thing about Fiji, we have a very positive image. Whenever you go overseas, you mention the word Fiji, people immediately start smiling. There's a very positive image. They see it as a good place, friendly people, pristine environment. But music, I agree with you that there's a lot of potential there too. But we have to ensure that we have the right structures in place.
The Honorable Attorney General and my fellow schoolmates, good morning to you all. Sir, I come from Vatuvuru Adventist College. The latest development that is being done there is the Lomaiviti Princess Service at Natuvu Jetty. So my observation is that the number of vehicles using the road that goes between my school has become very busy. Therefore, my concern is for the teachers and as well as the students. I as a student feel that if road humps or road detour would be made so that any mishaps would be avoided. And secondly, sir, the tasseling of the road. Right now, till Natuvu. Right now, the road is tasseled till Kasavu, and sir, if this infrastructure development would be made, more opportunity for people would be provided as well. So sir, my question is that is the provision made for this in the June budget or not? Thank you.
One thing about budgets, we don't reveal it until it's announced. So we can't tell you what's in it now. That's the thing about budgets. But we can take note of what you're saying. We have the gentleman from the Fiji Roads Authority here, and he'll take note of whereabouts. Which way is the school? Down that way, Buddha Way area. Okay, okay. We'll take a note of what you're saying. But we don't want to also, and they'll also be able to tell you there's a roadworks program that FRA and like electricity, they've identified what will be done next year. So we can tell you whether it'll get done or not, whether it's in next year's program or whether it's in the following year's program. Okay, thanks.
To the Honorable Minister of Economy. My name is Olivia and I attend Sangani High School. To enlighten you, Honorable Sir, transportation is one of the problems that rural schools encounter. The current situation at our school is such that the RSL truck picks students from school and drops them off at the main road to catch the bus. So if the truck is late, students will have to walk more than 1 hour to get to their villages. Is there an allocation in the Fiji National Budget 2018 for road developments towards rural schools so that the bus service can be provided?
So the what can be funded?
The bus services, so that it can reach our rural.
So at the moment there's no bus services. You're saying that
No, like we have to like travel in a truck and then go to the main road and then catch the bus from there. So that means if the truck is late, which we faced last week recently, that means we have to walk all the way from our school to our villages, which takes more than 1 hour.
and the truck, who provides the truck service?
Just one of the local trucks.
And is government paying for that?
Yeah,
So why is he late?
I don't know.
No, that's one thing that we can work out. In fact, it's a bit of an issue for us. Is that a lot of the bus companies also, a lot of the complaints we do get is that the bus companies who we give about $21 million to, they're not actually carrying out a proper service. So we can ask the education people to talk to that truck provider of service that if he does not do the right thing, maybe we can get somebody else to do it. But we'll make a note of that. Okay, make a note of that. Please. Thank you.
I is Vakalkam Kamila, the student of New South Methodist High School. I'd like to raise a concern similar to what Won has mentioned, based on electricity. Right now, we need electricity in New South. We believe that the hydro project, which has been approved by the Prime Minister, only reach up to Lamin, which is further away from our schools. We are humbly requesting, sir, if our school have access to electricity supply, which is, we believe that is the most contributor to the student learning. Thank you.
Mbolovanaka, my name is Thomas Boy. I'm originally from Taviuni, and I'm attending South Taviuni Secondary School, which is located in the south far end of Taviuni. And I'm currently a 13th student. And my concern, sir, is Taviuni is the third largest island in Fiji, and the main mode of transport is road. However, the poor road conditions has affected the lives of students, parents, and the community in the district of Vuna. And this normally affects the attendance of students during rainy seasons or during unfavorable weather conditions. Sir, my question is, how much does the government allocate in upgrading roads in rural areas and for outer islands? And sir, are there any plans to improve the road condition in the south end of Taviuni? Thank you.
Of spend on rural roading, we spend a lot higher than the amount of money per head, per capita, than it would be for urban areas. So, you know, sometimes, for example, to get to an area in the rural areas, you may need to travel 10 kilometers to get to the village or to that particular area. But there may be only about 50 people there. But the cost of building a 10-kilometer road can be quite high. Whereas there are places in the urban areas where you can actually have that in that 10-kilometer road, you may have actually 50,000 people living, or 20,000 people, or even 5,000 people. So you can say cost per head actually, to build a road for those 50 people is a lot higher per head. So there is a substantial amount of money. We can also let you know, Kamal Gounder, who also sits on the board of Fiji Roads Authority, who's here with us, he'll make a note of the area that you're talking about, and we'll look at what program we have for that. You know, the unfortunate thing is, you have to also remember, a lot of the things we are doing now should have been done 10, 15, 20 years ago. The southern end of Taviuni, it had the road 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. Why didn't people do that before? There are many things that we are doing now that should have been done 30 years ago. They're very basic things. So in other words, we are spending money to catch up. There are politicians from Savusavu, Buddha Bay, Lakondrove, all these areas, but they never built this Buddha Bay road. Politicians from Taviuni, they never did anything about water and electricity. We are now doing it, even though we're not from Savusavu. Or people, there's no politicians from here, but we're actually doing it. Because we believe that development should happen everywhere. Everybody should be given access to it. Of course, unfortunately, because we're playing catch-up, some of it takes a little bit longer. But we'll most definitely, in terms of our priority, we do want to connect schools, in particular with electricity and water. There are a lot of schools also, well, some schools, for example, in the Western Division, they don't have water. We're giving them water tanks, we're building boreholes. But of course, in your area, of course, is the issue of electricity, and the other school too. And of course, yours is roads. So one of the things we have been doing also in some of the rural areas, in front of schools, like we're doing tar sealing. So if it's dusty, you know, the road is not tar sealed in front of the school, because the dust comes into the classrooms, we're actually tar sealing roads in front of the schools. So we'll specifically take down your issue and see what the program is on it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Is a young man here?
Thank you, sir. Still on the island of Taviuni. Taviuni is now consisting of 4 big secondary schools, and most students are promoting to tertiary level each year. Therefore, sir, due to high transportation cost, parents are struggling in trying to make their children to move to the main island like Honolulu and Vitilevu, where tertiary education is available for further education for their children. Currently, if you've been to Taviuni, just when you get off from the jetty, there's a billboard standing there advertising the FNU campuses without even any construction or development has occurred onto it. A big sign of question mark is on everyone on Taviuni, is that when will the government take action on that, or what is the plan of the government on that advertisement? Thank you, sir.
It's what you call false advertising. We'll most certainly check with the FNU. as to why they put up an advertisement when they know they're not going to do something about it. But we can get back to you. One of the things, those of you who raise your issues, please leave some form of contact so we can get back to you. I don't want you to raise this issue with me and then we don't get back to you, right? So we want at least to give you a response. Even if the response is going to be that FNU said we're going to pull down the board, I want to be able to tell you we're going to pull down the board. Okay? Thank you. Thank you. There's a lady at the back there.
Honorable Sir, I am Delisa Kogil of Bugalev Secondary School from Taviuni. So we are grateful that the government has made provision for National Topper Scheme and the loan scheme which enables qualifying and deserving students, especially those who come from lower income earning families, to go for tertiary education and achieve their dreams. However, in a recent visit in Term 1, Week 14, a visit was made by the scholarship team to our school, informing us that the cutoff mark has been increased from 305 to 320, and also that in case of termination of scholarship, the scholarship holder or the guarantor will have to pay back 200%. Therefore, my question is, why has there been an increase in cutoff mark and the students have been given such a short notice? It takes time for one to set a target, and until the visit, we had our minds set at a target of 300, and now the bar has been raised to 320. While we realize that the government is aiming for quality students, we're hoping that these new criteria be given a year to settle in with the students. Also, many children depend on the scholarship to pursue their tertiary education. In the unfortunate case of termination, a student will be required to pay back 200%, which is unrealistic. Once the scholarship will be terminated, where will the student get financial assistance to pay back 200%, as he or she will be unemployed? Rather, the student can be required to pay back the amount which has been spent on him or her by the government to finance his or her studies. Thank you.
The 200% is not correct. Actually, that was done without authorization, I can tell you that. We've already made a public announcement on that. It's not 200%. And the other thing of paying back any loan, even if you finish your studies or haven't, you only start doing small repayments once you start working. So if you finish your course and you don't say get work for 3 months, you don't have to pay the loan. You don't have to pay a single cent. You only start paying once you start working. And it's not a lump sum. It's like repayment, like you're doing a loan repayment. It's small amounts. So that's number one. Number two, in respect of the cutoff marks, I'm not fully aware of that. But I know there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of competition. A lot of students are now studying hard. So, if you've aimed for 300, I'm sure you can get 20 marks more. My point is that because there's a lot of competition, which is good, of course, we also are looking at various other issues regarding TSLB. We are looking at improving some of the administrative side of things. We've had some complaints about the slow disbursement of funds, and we're also doing that. We also want to disburse funds. There are a lot of students who may be getting a loan, but we have allocated another $10 million to pay for those students who cannot, for example, afford accommodation. So we pay for the accommodation also, even though they're not a topper. And that becomes part of the loan later on. So they are saying that they want the payments done much before time. There was also an issue at Fiji National University where some of the people who stay on campus, and when they stay on campus, they were having their accommodation fees paid directly to FNU. So they have said that, look, we don't want it paid directly to FNU, we should get the money, because when they pay for the FNU accommodation, they also have meals included in that. So they said sometimes we don't want to eat there, or we don't like the quality of the food. Maybe one night they want to go and eat McDonald's in Lautoka or Suva, whatever it is. So we've said yes, that should be the case. And in fact, we had a meeting 2 days ago with the Vice Chancellor of FNU, where they've also agreed. So from next term, that's what's going to happen. So students are given more freedom to be able to do what they want to do with their money. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Kayum, sir, I am a scholar student. And the issue that I would like to bring forth to your attention is the public transportation, which is the most common one, the bus. Students from north and south of Taviuni use the bus a lot to reach the school. And my concern is that in Taviuni there's only one bus company. And most of the time, we the students are late to school. And on top of that, the bus is congested every afternoon. So I would like to request if they can or you can provide another bus company for the people of Taveuni as a whole, and this will ease the problem mentioned above.
I mean, look, this is it's a common issue that's being raised with us by a lot of the students, in particular regarding bus companies. And frankly, we're quite disappointed that a lot of these bus companies are taking the students, they're not treating them well. We, for example, had complaints in the Suvarnasinu area, where they apparently send, the most junkest of their buses to the school routes, in particular in those areas. And apparently there's also, they're quite rude to the students. They don't pick them up and all of that. That's one issue. The other one, of course, is that the other issue that you've just raised, that they're not on time. Like I said, we pay these bus companies $21 million a year. So one of the things we do want to do before the next budget is call them all in and have a service level agreement with them, that if they don't perform, maybe we can have penalties and all of that. The problem with these bus companies, some of them, they actually act a bit like thugs. Because they're the only bus company, and they know they're the only bus company, so they can say, well, if you don't like it, leave it. So then we kind of stuck. And this is the problem again. These are kind of issues that we need to deal with that should have been dealt with years ago. People complain to me about being only one bus company in Lambasa area. We found in the last consultations that some of the bus companies, even though we're paying them the money, the bus drivers were taking money from the students. So a number of these kind of issues are coming up, but thanks for raising that, and we will, we need to address that, of course. And we have to think of alternatives, definitely. Somebody here? No?
The Honorable Sir, I'm Vani and attend Budalev Secondary School. We appreciate the fact the government is taking initiative to make Fiji a knowledge-based society. For this, we have seen more technical colleges coming up to cater for students who feel academically challenged or have other special skills to maximize on. However, in Taveuni, there is a need for special school and technical school, as currently there is none. We have students who are mentally challenged or are dyslexic who are given the same treatment as other normal children. This is not only exerts more pressure on teacher and the school system, but also affects the self-esteem of the special case students. Therefore, we are hoping to see provisions for this in the budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We take note of that. Gentlemen.
The Honorable Minister, sir, the Attorney General. My name is Penya Severi. I'm from Savusavu Secondary School, and I believe that throughout all schools in Fiji, through sports, it creates a whole lot of unity and also a great wide of competition. So, since sports is a vital part of education, can the government put in place an insurance scheme for all sports in schools in Fiji?
What do you mean insurance scheme? What kind of insurance scheme?
Like some maybe remote schools or even big schools, they have this kind of organization that supports them financially throughout how they're going to, like what they're going to do in their sports. So right now, the school is facing financial problems, so we're trying to do some commitments and like to cater for what we're going to do. Like, and through this insurance scheme, like if it can help us, if it is going to guarantee like what we're going to, possible results for what we need through sports, is it is going to be like a competition. So can the government put in an insurance scheme like to support this? Since we are not allowed to fundraise, or the students are not supposed to take away money from their pocket. So is there any schemes or maybe a backup if it can help the school through this sports?
Basically what you're talking about is more funding for sports in schools, right? I mean, generally sports insurance is about injuries. Please have a seat. Sports insurance is mainly about injuries or any risk associated with sports. But what you seem to be talking about is additional funding for sports. You mean to develop people? Is that let him have it. Is that what you're talking about?
What I mean, sir, is that it is for the students, like, if a particular student, like, if he can get to support himself, like if he's been, like, they tell him if he could give a $10 just to support himself, what you're going to eat and drink throughout the camping period. Like, so if the school can get to cover for that, we could include it in insurance or...
I mean, insurance is not the right word. Insurance generally is associated with risk. So you pay a premium, and should certain thing happen, then you get paid out. What you're talking about is additional funding allocation, like you're saying for a student. Say for example, if you're good in rugby, so what you're saying, if you're saying that you want to develop that, you want to dedicate some time, you may need some, I don't know, drinks or whatever it is to help you train better, and for the school to be able to send you to various sporting events, then you're saying you need the funding for that, right? That's what you're talking about. Okay. We take note of that. We just have somebody who hasn't spoken then. Or is it related to that? Okay, please.
So what we mean is the insurance scheme for the students who are participating for that, to risks. Not for the funding, for the risks. If they injure themselves. For example, our school doesn't have an insurance scheme for students who are playing rugby and all, and it's very dangerous for them. And we are just asking if they can allocate a place in the budget for that particular insurance scheme for all schools in Fiji, since some schools don't have the funding for their own insurance scheme for their players.
That's something you can't do overnight, because if you get insurance, then you go to insurance company, right? So if we go to insurance company and we say to the insurance companies, we want to insure all students who play sports in Fiji. So then the insurance company will say, well, what's the level of risk? So then they'll have to go and inspect all the schools, they'll have to go and see all the games, who referees them, whether the person refereeing them is of right qualification, or is it just some teacher who knows a little bit of refereeing is refereeing? What type of sporting equipment do we have? There's some schools, obviously, the playgrounds is worse than others. So all of that they need to take into account. So it's something that, probably take over a year to assess. They'll have to go to every single school and assess that. Then based on that, then they'll say, okay, this is the premium we will charge per head, per student. And the premiums may differ. So for example, the risk for playing volleyball is not as high as playing rugby. Because you go in a scrum, when I was in Marist, one of the guys who was in school with me, we were playing Suva Grammar School. He went down in a scrum, somebody snapped his neck, and he was paralyzed from neck downwards. He's been a quadriplegic since then. In fact, he just died a few years ago. But that's a high risk. You generally won't find somebody's neck being snapped if they've been playing volleyball. So you see, it's not an easy thing to do, and the exposure assessment needs to be done quite thoroughly. Idea is good, but sometimes you may need to be able to look at what capacity do we build in the schools to ensure that injuries happen less. So you need to have, say, for example, proper insurance, proper equipment, proper grounds. If you fix all that up, then the level of risk is less. Okay. This gentleman over here, please.
Sir, my name is Shazil. I'm from Buddha Level Secondary School in Tabuni. My concept is government service in Tabuni. Not only the people of Tabuni, but the other small islands like Rambi, Kiwa are also dependent on the government service available on the island. To name a few, we have a government hospital, school, DO office. However, there is still a need for many services for which people have to travel across to Vanuatu or Viti. For example, people have to travel to get their birth certificates done, as it takes a long while in Tabuni to get this done. And also most of the time the machines are not working. Tin letters are not made on the island, for which people have to spend so much money to travel out and get it done. There is no FNPF office for business registration. Sir, we are requesting if those government services can be provided.
Okay, we take note of that. We centralize government services. A lot of it has probably not reached Tavuni yet, but the program is there to be able to get that to them. We recognize that. Okay, thank you. You two decide who's going to go first.
The Honorable Minister of Economy, my name is Caroline Sumida of Sangani School, and my question, sir, students at my school have to walk or be carried at a considerable distance to the nearest health center if they are sick or injured. There used to be an ambulance at the Sangani Health Center, but after almost 10 years, there is no ambulance at our health center. Is there an allocation in the Fiji National Budget 2018 for the increase in ambulance services to the rural health center like Sangani? Thank you.
Thank you for that. We have a general policy. We have been allocating increased funding to increase ambulance services throughout Fiji. That's my answer. I cannot answer you specifically about Sangani because I'll be telling you what's in the budget. But the main point is that we have a policy. We've been actually giving more money to increase the level of ambulance services throughout Fiji. Okay? Thank you.
Honorable Sir, my name is Malnyang Gianuku and I'm from Taviuni. I'm going to talk about electricity. And the new hydro project in Taviuni has brought about new hopes for the people of Taviuni. It has already begun to provide electricity to certain areas from Weriki to Lamini. And I'm staying in Angara, that's in between those two areas. And they have provided electricity to other parts of to other communities, including Nangara, but only the business communities. And I'm staying near that area. I'm just asking why did they provide electricity to other areas except for my area? That's my question, sir.
So maybe your question should be, when will you get the electricity, right? That's what you're asking?
When, yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll let you know. Kamal is here. He sits on the FEA board also. And please, for those of you, please don't forget, you need to give your individual issues. I know many of you raised infrastructure issues. Please, after this, both the gentlemen here at the back, they will take down your details and the specific issues because we do want to address them. Or at the very least, like I said, get an answer back to you to let you know what's happening. Maybe your area will get electricity in the next financial year, or maybe it's earmarked for next financial year, meaning from August, or in the following financial year. We don't know, but we need to give you the answer to that. Okay?
Yes, sir. And another thing I have to raise my concern is on the main island, the cost of electricity is, I believe it's $0.33 per unit, 33 cents per unit.
34.
34 cents per unit. And in Nangara, the private sector, the private business, it's approximately $4 per unit.
The one from the Electricity Authority is 34 cents throughout Fiji. Right, so if it's supplied by the FEA grid, it's 34 cents. But if you have a household income of less than $30,000 a year, and you use 95 kilowatts, we pay 17 cents of that 34 cents for you. So you pay only 17 cents. In respect of the power that's provided by private people, that we don't actually regulate at the moment. They're individual. But as far as the FEA one is concerned, it's 34 cents. If you come from a household that earns less than $30,000, you pay only 17 because we pay 17 for you to FEA directly.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My name is Perina from St. Bede's College. Sir, as the Minister for Education highlighted last year about iPads to 12 and 13 students, we have still waiting for it. Hope in this budget it is looked again. It will benefit us in research program and more quality education performance. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It's a good question. It's one thing to also provide iPads, but we also have to look at the content. The equipment can be there, and this is one of the issues that we did identify with the Ministry of Education. You need to have the right content to be able to use the iPad effectively. So, you know, there are two types of what they call infrastructure for computers or digital literacy. One is what you call the hard infrastructure, which is the actual physical iPad. The other one is the soft infrastructure, which is the program, or what you'll be able to access. And one of the things we've discovered, many of the schools, the teachers don't even know how to use it. I mean, it's a fact, they have not necessarily been trained in it. So we need to ensure that the people who you'll be learning from actually know how to use it also. We also need to know what kind of content there will be. These ladies don't have electricity, right? How will they charge the iPads if they don't have electricity? So if you have electricity in your school, suddenly we are creating a bigger gap between your school and this school. So we have to take a lot of these things into consideration. And I know the announcement was made about it, but we brought to the attention of the Ministry of Education that we need to consider it holistically. Because one of the things about technology is technology, as they say, is the great equalizer, but it can also be the great divider. It can be a very big divider. So if people, for example, if we suddenly, you have phone connectivity, you have iPad and all of that, you suddenly, your ball game changes. You climb up the ladder. And those people, if the rest of Fiji has it and schools like this don't have it, you're creating a bigger gap between your school and this school. So we must not forget about them too. So we're trying to think of ways as to what we should do before we roll it out. But it will happen. Maybe you'll leave high school by then, I'm not sure, but hopefully not. But the issue is that we're also talking to universities too. As you know, USP has given some equipment out. So we're also looking at the tertiary education side of things. Maybe people can get access to it then. That might be a better way to deal with it. Okay, thank you. Okay.
The Honorable Minister, sir, my name is Bernadette Ndaloma of Napuka Secondary School. I would like to mention that we are facing water problems in Napuka. And due to this problem, we the border students are being sent home because we don't have the proper water supply. We even resort to seawater to wash the school ablution block. So, sir, we are requesting if the government can see to this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll get back to you on that. Gentleman here.
My name is Savusavu. I'm from Savusavu State College. So, in term when I came to know that science engineering was supposed to start work with regards to teachers' quarters in particular. In my school, there are 11 teachers' quarters, which houses 21 teachers. Some of the quarters are not into the staff expectation. Some don't have sink, washtub, and washrooms. I do understand that the government was supposed to allocate funds for this project. So my question is, when this project can be activated in our school?
Okay, thank you for that. There are two fundings we make available. There are certain fundings, for example, we give Ministry of Education directly. So they, for example, in the beginning of the year, they'll come to us in the budget consultation and say, look, all the schools need to be fixed up, or we need to put staff quarters here. And based on that, we give them the money. Then they are the ones who attend to the rollout of it. Then we have another funding that actually is for major projects. And that rests, for example, with the Ministry of Economy, Construction Implementation Unit. They do the big ones. So it's split between the two ministries. In respect of your school, we can get back to you and let you know whether the money has already been allocated to Ministry of Education and they simply have not done it, or whether they had not allocated the funds and it's going to be done in the next financial year. Okay. But please, we'll make a note of that. Just tell the gentleman at the back too. Thank you. So lady here.
Sir, the issue I would like to raise is about the tar sealing of our school road, which was promised by your government and other governments. Sir, I humbly request if our school road could be tar sealed, because during rainy days it is risky and can cause accidents. And also, sir, I request for a hump to be placed in front of our school to reduce overspeeding. Vinaka.
Okay, thank you. We take note of that. Thank you.
Sir, I am Marsan Damba. I attend Nisa Medisa School. There's just an issue I would like to raise is regarding the boys' hostel in our school, which is need to be renovated. Humble request, if this issue can be looked into since welfare of students are paramount, who are the future leaders of tomorrow.
This is the boys' hostel. Sir? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Lady here, please.
The Honorable Chief Guest, sir, I come all the way from Napuka, and Napuka is at the end of Buddha Bay. One of the major drawbacks is no 24 hours electricity supply. Thus, we do not have internet access, and a computer lab is not enough. There's not enough computer in our school, and this affects our access to internet. Because year 12 and 13 students, we need to do a lot of projects, yeah? So we need to do a lot of research. Sir, I would like to request the government if you could assist us with internet connection. Thank you.
Do you have a mobile phone connection?
Yes, we are connected to Rambi.
Okay, so you have good mobile phone connection?
Not that really.
Not that good?
During bad weather, yeah.
Okay. No, the reason why I'm asking is because if you have good mobile phone connection, then you can get internet connection a lot easier through mobile broadband. But we'll take note of that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Just how many of you here from Taviuni? Please put up your hands. Oh, there's quite a few of you. So how long did it take you to get here? What time did you leave? You left yesterday or came today? Yesterday.
Honorable Attorney General and my dear colleagues, my name is Jessie Tiwawa and I'm an Year 12 student of Batavon Adventist College. Our school has pending projects on improving the infrastructure of our school. A promise had been made to provide us with special rooms such as Agriculture Science Lab and a PMAC room for effective learning. Also, our administrative team at the moment are being housed together with a school library, which is sometimes inconvenient in times for our library classes. And to add on, the staff room is deteriorating and needs to be renewed, and teachers are so congested inside. We believe that if teachers are happy and students are learning effectively, then good results will be produced. The question is, can these needs be looked at? Thank you.
Definitely, we'll please take a note of that and the issues you've raised for your school. Okay, thank you. Okay.
I'm Ateva, attending Savusavu Secondary School. Sir, I believe that water is necessity need for all. However, this has been a major problem for the students and the entire community of South Taveuni. Sir, for your information, there is a water desalination plant situated just beside our school, but has been lying idle for quite some time now. At present, the only source of water we are getting is from water cuts, which at times create a lot of frustration when they don't turn up when we really need them. So I believe that thousands of dollars is spent on this project every year to cut water to every household on the southern end of Taveuni. So are there plans to get the water desalination plant and running again? Thank you.
Okay, we'll definitely look into that. Yeah, come on. Thank you. Okay, gentleman there at the back. Oh, sorry.
The Honorable Attorney General and my dear colleagues, as year 13 of Batavon SDA College, seeking opportunities, I get disheartened when I see my siblings and my cousins who are graduating the village but still unemployed. On one hand, sir, our government is driving compulsory and free education. On the other hand, our graduates are still unemployed. Sir, I would like to know What guarantee of job opportunities is there after we are pursuing our tertiary education?
Okay, one of the ways of guaranteeing employment opportunities is by growing the economy, as I mentioned. So by growing the economy, by creating those opportunities, people get more readily employed. Maybe the cousins or your siblings who are not employed, maybe they need to leave that area, maybe they need to go and look for employment elsewhere. Because obviously, it's natural for a small town like Savusavu or smaller places, smaller than Savusavu, there's no doubt the employment opportunities will be limited because there's not that many businesses, not many offices around where people can get employed. So sometimes people, for them to get employment, they have to go to locations where they can get employment. That could be one issue. The second, of course, is that, as I said, there seems to be a higher rate of demand for employees in certain areas where there's very little people wanting to work in those areas. So this is the reason why, for example, we give scholarships on that basis. This is the reason why, for example, we give TELs. I don't know what kind of courses they studied. I don't know whether they finished high school or they finished university. But sometimes we found that some people have come to us and said, look, I had finished high school, but I went to the the technical college, and I did a course for 6 months or 3 months, and now I'm actually employed. So sometimes we may need to sort of focus on the area of...
Sir, I am Bulbert Nabuka from St. Bede's College. With regarding the hostel remission, sir, could you please, could there be a possibility of increasing the remission of fees for the hostel?
So how much, so you pay individually your boarding fees? You're a private boarding school, right?
220.
Sorry?
220.
220 term.
Term.
So your parents pay for that?
Yes.
And what are you asking?
Could there increasing the remission of fees for the hostel?
All right, we'll look at it. The Ministry of Education makes the submissions to us. The thing is that we can't only do it for your school. If you do it for your school, you have to do it for everybody. And of course, then there are some parents who send their children to boarding school who can afford it. So, see, the best way to spend government money, in particular for assistance, is to provide assistance to those families who actually do need it. In the past in Fiji, everybody, even the wealthy, got the assistance. So you may have some parents that may be sending, say, their children to boarding school in Natambua or ACS or QBS or some other school, and or SBC, whatever the schools are, but they may be quite wealthy. So we should be actually not helping them, we should be helping those people who come from below a particular income level. So those things can be worked out, but we take note of what you're saying. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The Honourable Sir, my name is Rebecca and I'm a year 13 student at Motherlip Secondary School. My concern is on the provision of health facilities in Tavioni, and there's only one government hospital and 2 health centres, and the services that are provided there is that sometimes the pills are less. Only a sample is given to the patients, and they are told to look for somewhere to get pills that will help in the improvement of their health, the rest of it. And sometimes the doctors are not in their workplace when they are supposed to be, and when patients are brought to the hospital, they have to be called from their homes. And my suggestion is if they can be looked into. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, we do know that some civil servants don't necessarily do their job well. We get a lot of complaints about a lot of civil servants. What I find really interesting is that, with the civil service reforms, we said that civil servants should have a 3 to 5 year contract, and that we need to assess them on their performance. It's very interesting how some politicians are making it into a political issue. They're saying civil servants should have a job for life. They're saying that, actually. I mean, this is so silly. Why should they have a job for life? If they're not turning up to work, they should be disciplined, they should be removed. So everybody should be on a contract. They should be able to perform based on their contract. And so, unfortunately, this is the attitude that some people have. A lot of people who work for the civil service, they think, oh, well, I've got the job, I can do whatever I like. Last night I was in Lambasa, we met with a group of farmers, and there's a particular area where the drainage board was supposed to, fix up the water that's coming, the seawater into the farmland. That issue was raised with them about 4 or 5 years ago. Till today, those civil servants have not fixed it up. Even the government has said to fix it up, they still have not done that. So a lot of people are sleeping on the job. And we obviously want to address that through the civil service reforms that we have. Okay. But I think the issue about, again, we need to increase the number of doctors that's available. Last year we had 200, we gave Ministry of Health enough money to hire 200 doctors. They were only able to hire 70 doctors because there's only 70 graduates in Fiji. So this is why we need to go overseas and bring more doctors so we can have more doctors throughout. So that will improve the quality of the service also that we provide. Somebody over here? This gentleman here?
The Honorable Minister, sport is school life. And in Montfort, we have a lot of good rugby players. And we're requesting the government if they could provide us a gym for the school. Thank you.
Montfort, how much money did you give? About 200,000? How much did you give? Just check. We'll check and tell you how much money we gave your school. In the budget, we make a direct allocation to Montfort. Savusavu, Montfort, also in Besari. But we'll just let you know. Sorry? $280,000. So it's up to your school to prioritize that. Is somebody here? Yeah, thank you.
Sir, my name is Mercedes Mangalevu and I'm attending Watbon Adventist College. Sir, thank you so much for including us, the students, in the national budget consultation today. As from your presentation, national debt increased each year $48.4 Fijian million and interest added to it. Are there strategies in place to try to keep it at some sustainable level?
You want to put the debt thing up? It is extremely sustainable. If you read the Fiji Times or Fiji Sun the other day, you would have seen a gentleman who's the head of the World Bank who's commented and said that Fiji's debt level is very sustainable. So, like I said, if you look at these amounts, they are increasing, yes. But all of you, every single person over here wants a new road. You want new electricity, you want to be connected to electricity, you want water, you want sports insurance, you want a gym. Where is the paisa going to come from? The money. The government has to spend money. People have to be able to have access to these services. And you all agree it's essential. So, there's two ways that government does do that. One of them, of course, is that we raise... Oh! Okay? Two ways to do that. One of them, of course, government raises revenue. And if you go to the revenue page, the other one, the savings, operating savings. So this is the revenue we collect is all the way from there to there. And then we spend that for coming here, hiring the mic, paying for wages and salaries, all of that sort of stuff, paying for your teachers' salaries, all of that comes from government. All your schools, most of your schools are privately organized schools. You either run by a faith-based organization or you run by a committee. So the committees of the schools are privately, but all are privately controlled. But all your teachers' salaries, government pays. Right? So all those expenses comes from there, but we are making a savings. So you should be concerned about this green line. If government is making more savings, that's good. So we use the savings to pay for those things that you wanted or you want. But on top of that, that's not enough. So we also go out and borrow. If you're going to go back to that page, please. We go and borrow money. So we go and borrow money, but at the same time, the wealth of the country is increasing. You know that $50 and $500, $20, $100? That makes your debt level sustainable if you also at the same time, you are growing the wealth of the country. So when you grow the wealth, it gives you more opportunity to borrow, but as a percentage, it's decreasing, which is this. As a percentage of your GDP, it's decreasing. Extremely sustainable. So don't get swept away by people who say, oh, these people are doing dinau and all of that. They are the very same people who don't understand. Because what you really need to do is measure this, your debt to GDP ratio. Yes, if we did not increase the wealth of the country, then and we kept on borrowing like this line would have been going up like that. Then that's not sustainable. Yeah? So I hope you understand. And if you go to the next slide, please, you see all these countries that I was talking about. See, these people's debt levels are a lot higher than ours, debt to GDP ratio. But in fact, Mauritius' GDP is much higher than ours. So they're borrowing a lot more. In terms of dollar value, they're borrowing a lot more. But the reason why they've done that is because they see that if we spend the money now, we'll make more money later. So you have to do that. You have to be able to be strategic. If we borrowed money and spent it in the wrong place, yes, that's a big problem. If we borrowed money and had a lot of parties, then it's a big problem. But if we're borrowing money to build, it's a good thing. Because that asset will give back value. There'll be a return on the asset. Yep, so those people who are saying that they want the road sealed in Napuka and all these places, you want the electricity, you want internet connection, once we do that, it costs money. Obviously, when you go to a very remote place, to take the electricity, you have to travel kilometers and kilometers to take the electricity to there. All that wire, all that pole, all costs money. So by the time we take it, maybe only 100 people are benefiting from it. So this is what I was saying. Somebody asked a question about rural areas. The cost per head of taking electricity to a remote place is a lot higher than the cost if you take it to a a lot of population or a lot of people live there. Because when you take the electricity, only 50 people will pay for the electricity bill. You may travel 5 kilometers in a place like a highly populated area, there'll be maybe 5,000 people who pay the electricity bill. So you get your money back quickly, FEA. So, but we have decided that as a government, we have to connect everybody irrespective of where they are. Some, of course, is taking longer. Some of it, of course, means a lot more money you have to spend to be able to get people connected. So if you look at this is what we're trying to do. This country became independent in 1965, Samoa. We became independent in 1970. They've had more loans than us, access to loans. But if you look at the level of development, our level of development is a lot higher than Samoa. Why are we, for example, Fiji Airways? Fiji Airways now flies to San Francisco, LA, Hong Kong, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, all the major cities. Why are we doing that? We're partnering with Fiji Airways, giving them $18 million, what we call a marketing strategy, to be able to make sure that their route is successful. When Fiji Airways is able to go to different countries and bring more people, our tourism numbers goes up. You know that example that I gave you about the family dependent on only one people? At the moment, the problem with our tourism industry is, out of all the tourists who come to Fiji, 51%, more than half, comes from only Australia. About 16 or 17% comes from New Zealand. So nearly 70% of our tourists come from only 2 countries. Can you imagine if the economy in Australia does not and New Zealand does not do well? What do you think will happen to us? Less Australians and Kiwis will travel, we get less money, we'll be hit harder. So this is why we want more Chinese, we want more Indians, we want more Europeans, we want more North Americans to come to Fiji as tourists. When they come to Fiji as tourists, then we can increase not just the numbers, but our dependency on 1 or 2 countries is reduced. So if we have, say, 20% of arrivals from India, 20% from Australia, 20% from New Zealand, 20% from North America, 20% from Europe, if one or two of the countries, if one country does not do well, we get less people. We still can have the 80% still coming to Fiji. That's what you call mitigating your risk. Mitigating your risk. So that's what we need to do. In the same way, as we talked about the economy when the broad-based growth, in the same way, if we want to be dependent on a lot of sectors to contribute to growth, if we only dependent on tourism and agriculture and we get a cyclone, finished. It'll take you 30, 40 years to get back what you've lost. So if we have this spread and, for example, we improve fisheries, forestry, we'll not only grow our wealth, but if something happens here, we can depend on the rest. That's the way you need to look at it. And these things take time. You have to have a strategy, 30, 40 years' time. Why do you think we're giving you free education? Why do you think we're giving access to education? Because we're thinking 10 years down the track. Majority of the population is below the age of 40. In 15 years' time, all of you will be the people who will be running the place. And if all of you have some form of qualification, it means that Fiji will do a lot better than what it is doing today. But it requires investment now. Yep? That's the way we work. That's the way we need to work. So a lot of the things that we are doing now, for example, like Savusavu Dam, if you see a lot of the electrical cables that are here in Suva, they're like 50 years old. Governments previously, these statutory organizations never put money aside to make sure you do constant maintenance. Now the brothers here have built this. If they don't constantly maintain it, don't paint it, don't look after the roof, in 4 or 5 years' time, this roof building will look terrible. What he wants to do is probably put a wall there. Maybe eventually one day air condition it. Right? I mean, these are the things that we have to do. We have to always set aside money to maintain your asset. And in Fiji, previously, nobody has been very good at maintaining assets. You have your house, you build a new house, you have to make sure you repaint it every few years. If the louver breaks, you have to have enough money to fix up the louver. Otherwise, the next time it rains, the water will come through. It will wet your mat, it will wet your TV, it will make your floor get rot. So you see, this is how we need to think about government. You need to be strategic. You need to set aside money to keep it for the rainy day. And that's what government does. So getting back to your point about the debt sustainability, that's how we measure that. Also with borrowings, when we borrow money, we try and borrow money, more money from Fiji than overseas. So at the moment our debt mix, what you call the debt mix, 70% of our borrowings is from within Fiji, 30% is from overseas. The reason why we want to borrow less money from overseas is because when you borrow money from overseas, you have to pay back in foreign currency. So sometimes the foreign currency rate goes up. So you have what you call a foreign currency exposure. But if you borrow in Fijian dollars, you pay back in Fijian dollars. So that's how we also are being strategic about it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your participation. I also appreciate that most of you came from long distances, from other islands, including Taveuni and Rambi, of course. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate that. Just remember, you people are the future of our country. There's a great responsibility on your heads. You people will be the leaders of our country very soon. You don't have to be a leader just only if you're in parliament. You can be a leader in your own community, leader in your own home, leader in your own organization. The one message that I've been giving to every single gathering that I've been to, in particular to all the schools and universities, I have one plea. Please keep Fiji clean. It's a very simple thing, but Fiji is becoming dirty. You just drive next time you're on the roadside, just see how much rubbish is on the side of the road. Just see how much rubbish. There's a lady who came from West Indies. She was doing a PhD at University of the South Pacific in tourism sector. And she said to me, she said, great place, Fiji, pristine environment, great people, hospitable, but you people are very dirty. I felt a bit, mandua, embarrassed. But actually, I don't know what's the rubbish situation like around here. But most definitely in the highways in Viti Levu, if you drive past, FRA now comes and cuts the grass on the side of the road. I don't like it because when they cut the grass, you see all the rubbish. Because when people go in the bus, they go in the car, they finish the packet of twisties, they throw it out the window. They drink their juice, they throw it out the window. It does not cost you a single cent to throw that rubbish in the right place. You finish your juice, keep it with you. It's not costing you a cent. When you get to your destination, just put it in the rubbish bin. That's all. If everybody did that, it will actually make us a lot more cleaner. Just next time, just drive around and see the kind of rubbish you see. Even if you eat the small packet of beans or whatever, when you eat that, just don't throw it down on the road. Because it will actually mean that we'll become a lot more dirtier, and does not make us look attractive. And for me, that's an act of being patriotic to your country. Patriotism is not only about when we win rugby sevens, or when we just stand up in school and sing the national anthem. Being patriotic is how you live your life every hour in your country. In the same way, if the teacher knows that if they teach well, they will be actually churning out better students and therefore better leaders and better citizens, we all have a role to play. So my simple message to you is, please, just keep Fiji clean. Don't throw your rubbish elsewhere, just put it in the rubbish bin. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best for your future years and also for this year. Vinaka, thank you.